AP.
Okay.
I guess the Post-Gazette adored it. And apparently the issue was they had a bye. They clinched a share, and then they had to wait a week to see who would be the team they would play in the playoffs.
Okay.
And the players were, in those days, as soon as the season ended, they left town, checked out,
Yeah.
Well, they wanted to be paid for that bye week. And so apparently Jack Sullivan was not keen on that. And there wasn't like a follow-up story. Did the guy you talked to ever tell you, did they actually get somebody?
He told me, and this is as deep as he got, because I was just learning, and I was just throwing this on, and he said, all we got was a game salary. And he did tell me, it was Bob Seifers, Cifers.
Well, what's that name again?
It's Bob Seifers, Cifers. Yes, Bob C. He was the guy they traded Bill Dudley for.
Oh, okay.
And so Cifers. Myron Cope remembered him, only as Myron could. But, and by the way, I got something coming up. But he told me that he went home to Kingsport. He lived in Kingsport, Tennessee. During what you speak of, and didn't think that they were going to play. They just, hey, look, and then they said, no, we got the game on. And I know that the game sold out. It was, if there was ever a time where the first time of Steeler Mania, there was a lot of stories in the Post-Gazette about all the tickets that were being sold. And, the Steelers were now kind of taking over for the Panthers, and Jock Sutherland was, it was that sort of thing. So it was like the first time that the city ever really was in love with the Steelers. But, the game almost, from what I was told, there was a mini boycott anyway, and and now I didn't check the previous week, but the game week there were no stories on it. So There you go. Anyway, because I'm learning about them. All right, we're back here with Vito Stellino, one of the great football writers, not only contemporarily but historically. VitoStellino.com. And, he's covered just about everything. Living down there in Jacksonville, still staying active, playing tennis. I know you were telling me and such. And, in fact, even at one time covering the Jacksonville Dolphins, who ETSU fans around here will know as a former rival in the Atlantic Sun Conference. But let's talk a little now contemporarily pro football and such. One of the things, just to go back with that Steelers-Jacksonville game, is that I hear a lot of talk, Mike Mitchell, this sort of thing, coming from Pittsburgh. Jacksonville, more lunch pail. They're keeping their mouths shut. The only thing that I can see is one player who says, be careful what you wish for, when, Ben Roethlisberger says that I like another crack after throwing 5 picks against the Jacksonville Jaguars in their first meeting. What do you think of the environment here? This used to be a great rivalry, Vito, but the talking from the Steelers, could this be a case of counting your chickens before they hatch?
Well, when you consider their defense, I don't think you can count your chickens, because when you got a great defense, you get a couple turnovers, you stay in the game, you make it close, and who knows. Also, the huge factor in this game, not getting enough attention, is Shazier being out. You lose your best defensive player, who had a big game against the Jaguars the first game. That's a big loss, too. So I actually think the Steelers are too heavy a favorites. They should probably only be favored by 3 or 4 points, but they're a popular team, and Jaguars are so off the radar screen. But I would think after 30-9 that the Steelers would take them a little more seriously this time. Not as they did last time, because Ben had a terrible game, so. But I think this could be a close game. With their defense can stay in games. So. But again, a lot depends on how Bortles plays. At this time, he may not feel any pressure. Last week, his first playoff game, they were expected to win. They're home. Pressure on him. He doesn't deal well with that. Now he's got a game where they're big underdogs. Nobody's giving him a chance. He might relax and play better than he did, And also, I think Buffalo had a better secondary than the Steelers do. So, when you lose a game like that.
Well, we're talking to Vito Stellino, and again, he's covered both the Jaguars and the Steelers, really for much of the prestigious years of their history. One thing I would point out, Bortles only threw 14 passes in that first game in Pittsburgh. Vito, it's supposed to be 21 degrees in Pittsburgh. Is that any factor, do you think, or is it kind of a situation of, you know what, both teams have as many players as each other from the north? Come on, you know, or how big of a factor could a cold day in Pittsburgh be in this game?
Well, actually, the last 2 weeks here it's been cold. So, and you say they have players from all over the country. I don't think that's, I mean, if it was, 5 below, okay, but I don't think 21 is a huge factor, especially if it's not too windy. I think wind affects the passing game more than the cold does. People can, I mean, they ran a documentary recently of the Ice Bowl, and both quarterbacks actually threw the ball pretty well in those conditions. So, I don't think that, the cold day factor is that big a factor. Also, I question, will the Steelers fans be as intense as they can be, if they're playing the Patriots, thinking, hey, it's the Jaguars, this is going to be a win, that type of thing. So it kind of remains to be seen what the home field advantage will be in this game.
I've never been a huge believer in home field advantage. I mean, I know what it's about. The home team wins the majority of the time and all this, but I just sort of think that if you're a professional, they'll be yelling at us. It's just not that much of a worry. And even a high school coach who uses it as an excuse is just doing that. He's making excuses. It still comes down.
The real home field advantage is the officials are affected by the crowd.
Okay. Yeah,
I say always, but it's been known to happen.
I do remember one time, this is years ago, and bad snaps occurring because the quarterback can't hear the signals in the shotgun, stuff like that. Yeah, you can see some things like that. I just always, though, say, the least of your worries should be the fan telling you that you're a bum in the stands. What you ought to be worried about is, the Jaguars pass rush that has 4 guys with 8 sacks or more. I know you're, as a veteran football writer, I do want to ask you about the other games in the NFL playoffs. One of the things, I guess it's the first time that a 6 seed is favored against a 1 seed by Vegas with the Falcons at Philadelphia. And that's all because, Carson Wentz isn't playing quarterback. I was looking at the teams and I said, best chance to win the Super Bowl. And I wouldn't have said this before the injury, but I'm almost of the opinion that the Philadelphia Eagles have the least best chance to win the Super Bowls, primarily because of the way that Foles has played and that they don't have Carson Wentz. I mean, the Cowboys shut him out, for crying out loud. Are you in agreement, or do you think that the Eagles can still be a factor in this year's playoffs?
Well, we'll see. In the history of pro football, only 3 teams have won a championship after losing a quarterback late in the season. I mean, I don't count Case Keenum because he's played quarterback as a backup all year long, but, the Giants, when Phil Simms got hurt, Jeff Hostetler played against Buffalo, but again, the Giants had a great defense, and then Tobin Rote replaced Bobby Lane in 1957. The only other time before that was the Giants in 1934, the famous Sneakers game.
Oh, yeah.
Where the Sneakers always played a bigger role on the ice. Historically, teams don't lose their quarterback late in the year and win a championship. Doesn't mean it can't happen. But, I'll be surprised if the Eagles win. I mean, especially with the Minnesota having a chance to have home field, all the way, including the Super Bowl. No team has ever played Super Bowl as home field, so that certainly is something you have to look at. But I think it'll be amazing if Foles pulls it off because he hasn't, played that well in the past.
Yeah, I know that what you say. I would point out that in Super Bowl 19, it was in Palo Alto, and the 49ers were there. And also, speaking of backup quarterbacks, a game you covered, Super Bowl 14, was in Pasadena, which isn't the Rams' home stadium, but it was in Los Angeles. And Vince Ferragamo in relief of Pat Hayden. and had the Rams within 15 minutes of beating the Steelers before he throws a fourth quarter pick to Jack Lambert in that game. But there you go. I mean, maybe the difference there, backup quarterback throwing the final nail in the coffin, if you will, when there was pressure. So it's a good point there. Looking at the other games out there, New England, their pass defense, they've allowed a lot of yards through the air. There's possible turmoil in the locker room. Is there a chance for the Titans to go up to New England Saturday night and win this game? Or is it just, look, these are the Patriots. It's the dynasty of the 21st century. Don't give me a 6th seed. This isn't going to happen. Do the Titans have a chance?
I think their only chance if Brady gets hurt during the game.
Really?
In all the talk about trading Garoppolo, one thing hasn't mentioned, it left them with no alternative if Brady gets hurt. I mean, if they got to play Brady, they think Brian Hoyer's going to win the game. If Brady goes down, I mean, that was a surprising thing about the timing. So I think if Brady stays healthy, they will win and probably win, pretty easily. So, I would. I think there's a whole lot of questions about why they traded Garoppolo when they did. I think it was a mistake. You keep another year and franchise him because who knows what Brady's like next year and all that. But the here and now is they're okay with it right now. But should he get hurt, say, in the first half, and Hoyer goes second half, then I think the Titans have a chance.
All right. So, I guess we spoke of this before, whenever your starting quarterback goes down, unless, I don't know, Earl Morrall comes in or something.
If Garoppolo would come in, I think New England could still beat the Titans with Garoppolo. I don't know if they could do it with Hoyer. Depends on who your backup quarterback is, too,
I mean, Garoppolo. What about it? 7-0 as a starter. It reminds me of when Ben Roethlisberger broke into the league with 14 straight victories. What are your thoughts on Garoppolo? I mean, is this guy catching lightning in a bottle, or is he really that good and just? He was behind Brady all those years. You weren't going to start him over Tom Brady. What do you think that Garoppolo is going to be an elite quarterback in the league in the future?
Well, it looks like it so far, but it's a small sample size. So we'll find out next year. Give him a whole season, see how he does. But right now, he's really off to a great start. And you got to think, hey, this guy has a shot, of being a very good quarterback. And if he makes it big, the Patriots for a long time are going to regret trading him.
I want to talk to you a little bit about those storylines here, as well as the Hall of Fame. But let's look at that final playoff game. And boy, it is a great glamour matchup. Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints against that tough Minnesota defense. And you've mentioned him in this interview a bit, Case Keenum. I mean, I won't say he came out of nowhere because he set a lot of records at the University of Houston, but he is a free agent. And so, let me begin with that. Why do you think Keenum fell through the cracks and was signed as a free agent, wasn't drafted by the NFL? That to me is like, how could you ignore all these stats? Why do you think that was the case?
Well, he certainly, for the first few years in the NFL, he didn't look like he should have been drafted. He struggled a lot in Houston. And, but you have to remember, the toughest thing in sports, or one of the toughest, is to judge a college quarterback how he's going to play in the NFL. It is a total crapshoot. You just might as well flip a coin because it's such a huge transition. It's a different game. It's a whole different situation, and then sometimes it just takes young quarterbacks, time to find their right spot. And it looks like he's found his right spot right now. And so we'll just see how far he takes in the playoffs.
Well, do you think, what are your thoughts on that game? Because it may be the last chance for Drew Brees to win a championship. I mean, he'll be 40 years old next year. And I know it's tough not to root for Drew Brees in this game, but just a tremendous defense he's going up against in Minnesota. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, the big plus for the Saints, they have a running game now, too. So they don't have to depend depend totally on Drew Brees. Yeah, I think it's probably the game of the weekend. You know, two good teams. Both could make the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game.
Like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, you know, you love this time of year with the NFL playoffs, and the whole nation is gripped. Although, yeah, there is the topic about the ratings being down, and the ratings really being up for college football this year. Vito, what are your opinions on that? You've covered the league for a long time. Why do you think the NFL is suffering maybe with a little bit less popularity than they had in years past at their peak?
Well, the first problem is people just don't watch TV as much as they used to, or at least watch network TV.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially the younger generation, or the streaming and Netflix and Hulu and all of those things. So there's not, you know, TV, network TV watching is down across the board. And the NFL knows that they're still the best draw on network TV, even though their overall ratings are down. But I think the bigger problem is just still oversaturation. You know, they play too many, you know, you play Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night. They just throw a couple Saturday games in there, you know. And then the colleges play from dawn to midnight. You know, after a while, people just get turned off. And then you have red zone. People can just watch the highlights, not watch the whole game. So I just think it's a lot of different factors. But I think a major one is just oversaturation. And they don't have enough good matchups to fill all these windows, you know, to fill all these games. So you wind up with matchups in prime time that people aren't all that into, you know. So it's and then, you know, the concussion problem, the leadership by Godell, and the Slate game, which was absolute nothing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It rises up to be a year and a half thing, you know. So I just think there are a lot of little factors that have, you know, kind of added up. I think a big question now is next year. As they go out of the stars, down as they're going to go, it'll be the same next year as this year, or are they going to go down even more? So I think that's one of the big questions next year. But I don't think they'll return to 215 ratings anytime soon.
All right.
And maybe their high water mark. You know, people forget that the highest rated Super Bowl history as far as ratings was Super Bowl 16. That was before cable.
Sure.
You know, came along, the 49ers and Bengals. And, I mean, more people watch it now because there's more people in the country than there were back then, you know. But as far as like a share of an audience, even though, you know, they get 100 million people, it's still not, the share isn't what it, you know, what it once was. So
Sure.
we had so many other options. You know, the heyday of Monday Night Football, there were 3 channels.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to watch TV, there are 2 channels that have something that really interested you, well, I'll take a look at the NFL game, you know. But no, hey, maybe there's a great movie on HBO or Netflix or whatever. And so it's just a different environment now. Another big question is if the ratings stay down, but they continue to be the...
Oh, boy, did we lose Vito here? Did we lose Vito? I tell you what, I'm enjoying this, and I think you do too. The man knows his football, obviously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break right now. We'll reconnect with Vito Stellino after this on Tri-City Sports Now.